Hey guys, tonight we're exploring a story that everyone in history should know. The story is The Complete Odyssey Explained. You get comfortable, take a moment, like the video, and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The Complete Odyssey Explained. Imagine that the day has almost come to an end. The sky above the sea has softened into quiet shades of blue and silver, and a gentle breeze carries the familiar scent of salt across the water. Waves rise and fall with an unhurried rhythm, touching the shore as they have done for countless generations. Somewhere in the distance, a wooden ship creaks softly, resting after a long journey. Seabirds glide lower as evening approaches, and the world begins to settle into peaceful silence. Tonight you are not simply listening to an ancient story. You are slowly traveling into one of the oldest surviving adventures ever told. It is a tale that has crossed thousands of years, moving from the voices of traveling poets to handwritten manuscripts, and from those manuscripts to printed books that continue to be read today. This is the story of the Odyssey. Before we meet its famous hero, it is worth taking a quiet moment to understand the world that created this remarkable tale. Picture yourself standing on a rocky hillside overlooking the Aegean Sea. Small islands stretch across the horizon like scattered stepping stones. The sea is calm now, but everyone living here knows that it can change without warning. Gentle waves may become dangerous storms before a single afternoon has passed. For the people of ancient Greece, the sea was both a friend and an uncertain companion. Roads between distant lands were few, and mountains often separated neighboring communities. Ships connected kingdoms more easily than wagons ever could. Merchants carried olive oil, wine, pottery, and bronze tools across these waters. Sailors exchanged stories as often as they traded goods. Every voyage offered the chance for wealth, but also the possibility of never returning home. Because of this, journeys became part of everyday imagination. Parents watched sons leave aboard ships. Children waited for fathers who sailed away. Wives wondered whether husbands would return before another winter arrived. Kings measured their strength not only by armies, but also by the ships resting in their harbors. In such a world, stories about long voyages felt deeply familiar. The Odyssey did not appear suddenly from nowhere. It grew from centuries of storytelling. Long before anyone wrote these adventures down, traveling singers carried them from village to village. During festivals and gatherings, audiences listened as skilled performers recited thousands of lines entirely from memory. These storytellers were known for remarkable memories. They used repeated phrases and familiar descriptions that helped them remember long narratives while giving listeners a comforting rhythm. As the firelight flickered across attentive faces, audiences already knew many of the heroes by name, yet they returned again and again to hear the stories because each performance offered new details, new emotions, and a slightly different journey. Among all these heroes, one stood apart. His name was Odysseus. Unlike many legendary warriors, Odysseus was not remembered simply because he was the strongest. Others could lift heavier weapons. Others could charge more fearlessly into battle. Odysseus became famous because he observed carefully. He listened. He planned. He adapted whenever the world changed around him. His greatest weapon was often his mind. That quality would carry him through dangers where strength alone could never succeed. Yet before his long voyage home could begin, another story had already transformed the Greek world forever. It was the story of Troy. Imagine another shoreline many years earlier. Hundreds of ships rest side by side, pulled onto a wide beach beneath towering defensive walls. Their wooden hulls shine beneath the morning sun. Spears lean against tents. Smoke rises gently from cooking fires where breakfast is being prepared. Thousands of men have gathered from kingdoms spread across Greece. Some came willingly. Others followed promises made long before. All have crossed the sea for a single purpose. The city before them is Troy. According to ancient tradition, the conflict began because Helen, the wife of the Spartan king Menelaus, was taken to Troy by the Trojan prince Paris. Whether every detail happened exactly as later poets described remains uncertain. Historians continue to debate how much of the Trojan War reflects real events and how much belongs to legend. Archaeological discoveries show that a wealthy city called Troy truly existed in northwestern Anatolia, near modern-day Turkey. Evidence also suggests that violent conflicts affected the region during the Late Bronze Age. Over generations, memories of real wars blended with imagination, creating one of history's greatest epic traditions. For listeners of the Odyssey, however, the Trojan War was already famous. They knew its greatest warriors: Achilles, Hector, Ajax, Agamemnon, Menelaus. And among them stood Odysseus, king of the small island of Ithaca. Unlike mighty kingdoms with vast territories, Ithaca was modest. Picture yourself there. Steep hills rise from the sea. Goats climb rocky slopes with surprising ease. Olive trees twist their trunks toward the sunlight after decades of slow growth. Narrow paths connect scattered homes built from stone and timber. Life here depends upon careful work. Families gather olives each season. Shepherds guide sheep across uneven ground. Fishing boats leave before sunrise. Children learn practical skills almost as soon as they can walk. The island may not possess immense wealth, but it offers something many rulers value even more: home. Odysseus ruled this island alongside his wife Penelope. Together they welcomed a son named Telemachus. When the Trojan expedition began, Telemachus was still an infant. Odysseus left behind not only a kingdom, but also a child who would grow up barely remembering his father's face. Imagine that farewell. The harbor is busy. Sailors tighten ropes. Families embrace one another. Armor catches the first light of morning. The sea waits patiently beyond the shore. Odysseus cannot know that he will remain absent for 20 years. No one standing there knows it. Not Penelope. Not the young child in her arms. not even Odysseus himself. 10 years will disappear beneath the walls of Troy.
10 more years will pass during the journey home. Sometimes history feels distant because we already know how events will end. Those who lived through them never possessed that certainty. Each farewell might become permanent. As the ships departed from Greece, countless families watched until the sails became tiny white shapes against the horizon. Gradually, they disappeared completely. Years passed, the war continued. Generation after generation has remembered stories from those 10 difficult years. Some tales speak of remarkable courage. Others tell of grief that touched both victors and defenders alike. The Odyssey begins only after Troy has finally fallen, but the victory itself carries an important connection to Odysseus. Many listeners immediately think of the famous wooden horse. According to later traditions closely connected with the epic cycle, it was Odysseus who conceived the clever plan that finally overcame Troy's mighty walls. Instead of endless attacks, the Greeks appeared to sail away, leaving behind an enormous wooden horse. Hidden inside waited selected warriors. Believing the war had ended, the Trojans brought the horse into their city. During the night, Greek soldiers emerged. The gates were opened. The returning fleet entered. Troy fell before dawn. Whether this happened exactly as later stories describe remains uncertain. No archaeological discovery has confirmed such an event. Yet the tale beautifully captures something essential about Odysseus. His victories often came through patience rather than force, through observation rather than anger,
Through intelligence rather than overwhelming strength. These qualities remain central throughout the Odyssey. As the long war ended, surviving Greek leaders prepared to return home. Some voyages proved short. Others encountered storms.
A few kings never reached their kingdoms at all. Ancient audiences understood something important about sea travel. Winning a war did not guarantee arriving safely home. Nature cared little for human triumphs.
The wind followed its own path. Storms ignored victories. Hidden rocks waited beneath familiar waters. Imagine dozens of ships leaving the ruins of Troy. Their sails fill with fresh wind. The shore slowly disappears behind them. Many sailors smile for the first time in years. Some speak excitedly about seeing their families again. Others quietly wonder how much home may have changed. Children once left behind may now be nearly grown. Parents may have become old. Friends may no longer be alive. Every mile across the sea brings hope. Yet every mile also carries uncertainty. The Odyssey opens long after these departures. Something has gone terribly wrong. Most kings have already returned. Odysseus has not. Years continue passing. People begin believing he must be dead. On Ithaca, life slowly changes without him. Telemachus grows into a young man. He hears stories about a father whom everyone praises, but almost no one has seen for decades. Imagine growing up surrounded by memories instead of a parent. Neighbors describe your father's wisdom. Travelers admire his courage. Old soldiers remember fighting beside him, yet you possess only fragments. A voice remembered from early childhood, perhaps the faintest memory of being lifted into strong arms.
nothing more. Penelope faces a different challenge. The kingdom cannot remain uncertain forever. Many noblemen from nearby islands begin visiting the palace. Officially, they come seeking marriage. In reality, they also seek power.
If Penelope chooses one of them as husband, that man will likely become king of Ithaca. At first, patience seems reasonable. Everyone understands that voyages sometimes take years, then more years pass. Still, Odysseus does not return. Hope becomes harder to maintain. Inside the palace, the atmosphere changes. Suitors begin staying longer than simple guests should. They feast daily. They consume livestock belonging to Odysseus. Wine disappears from storage jars. Food prepared by loyal servants feeds visitors who contribute little themselves. Imagine entering such a hall. The scent of roasted meat fills the air. Laughter echoes from stone walls. Wooden tables overflow with bread, olives, cheese, and wine. Yet beneath this appearance of celebration lies quiet disrespect. Everything being consumed belongs to an absent king. Every meal weakens his household. Every passing season increases pressure upon Penelope. She becomes famous not through battle, but through extraordinary patience. Ancient audiences admired many kinds of strength. Some belonged to warriors, others belonged to rulers. Penelope represented another form entirely. She endured uncertainty. She remained thoughtful. She searched constantly for ways to delay decisions without causing open conflict. One of her most remembered actions involved weaving. She announced that she would choose a new husband only after finishing a burial cloth for Odysseus's elderly father, Laertes. Each day she worked carefully before everyone. Each night, after darkness covered the palace, she quietly unraveled much of her progress. Days became weeks, weeks became months, months stretched into years. Her weaving never truly ended. Imagine the quiet sound of thread moving through cloth beneath gentle lamplight. Most of the palace sleeps. Outside, waves continue washing against distant shores. Only Penelope remains awake, patiently undoing work that others believed completed. It is a small act, yet it reveals remarkable determination. Meanwhile, far from Ithaca, Odysseus remains alive. He has crossed unknown seas. He has faced dangers beyond imagination. He has lost companions. He has survived storms that destroyed entire fleets. Still, home remains beyond reach. His greatest obstacle is no longer distance alone. The gods themselves have become involved. To understand the Odyssey fully, we must understand how ancient Greeks viewed their gods. Imagine looking toward the highest mountain in Greece. Its snowy peaks disappear into drifting clouds. For many Greeks, Mount Olympus became the symbolic home of powerful divine beings. These gods resembled humans in surprising ways. They loved. They argued, they felt pride, they experienced jealousy, they offered kindness. Sometimes they became angry. Unlike humans, however, they possessed extraordinary power over nature and destiny. Throughout the Odyssey, divine actions influence human lives repeatedly. Athena, goddess of wisdom, admires Odysseus. She respects intelligence, careful planning, and perseverance. Poseidon, ruler of the sea, becomes his greatest enemy.
The endless waters separating Odysseus from home are not merely natural obstacles. They reflect the anger of a god who refuses to forgive. This relationship between divine will and human effort formed an important part of Greek thought. People believed they should work wisely and courageously, yet they also recognized forces beyond human control: storms, earthquakes, unexpected fortune, sudden tragedy.
These reminded everyone that life remained uncertain despite careful planning. As evening deepens across our imagined sea, another quiet realization emerges. The Odyssey is not simply about monsters or magical islands. At its heart, it is about returning home. Home means family, memory, identity, responsibility. It asks gentle questions that remain meaningful today. What changes during long absences? Can people remain the same after years of hardship? How does hope survive when time continues passing? What truly makes a place home? As these questions slowly settle into your thoughts, somewhere beyond the horizon, Odysseus waits upon a distant island. He does not yet know that powerful events are beginning to move once again. The gods are preparing to speak. Athena is about to remember the absent king. Telemachus will soon begin his own journey. And after many years of waiting, the first quiet steps toward home are finally about to begin. The sea continues its endless rhythm beneath the stars. Morning, though still far away, is already making its patient journey toward the horizon, and our own journey through the Odyssey has only just begun. Imagine that the night has passed gently. The stars that once rested above the quiet sea begin to fade one by one as the eastern horizon slowly fills with pale shades of silver and soft blue. A cool breeze drifts across the water, carrying the familiar scent of salt and distant pine. Somewhere along a rocky shoreline, waves continue their patient conversation with the land, sounding much the same as they did countless generations ago. As the morning slowly arrives, the world seems calm. Fishing boats begin leaving sheltered harbors. Shepherds guide their flocks toward fresh grass still covered with dew. Smoke rises from small homes where families prepare simple meals of bread, olives, and goat's cheese. Another ordinary day begins for many people across the Greek world. Yet far above these peaceful scenes, something extraordinary is about to happen. The gods have not forgotten the affairs of humankind. For many years, Odysseus has remained absent from his homeland. His wife continues waiting. His son has grown into adulthood without truly knowing his father. His kingdom survives, but only just. The waiting has lasted so long that many believe the story has already reached its end. But history and legend often move quietly before they change direction. Picture yourself looking upward beyond the clouds towards the imagined heights of Mount Olympus. Whether ancient Greeks believed every detail literally or understood some stories symbolically, Mount Olympus became the grand setting where divine decisions shaped the lives of mortals below. The mountain itself is very real. Its highest peak rises above northern Greece, often hidden beneath drifting clouds and changing weather.
To those living in antiquity, its distant summit naturally inspired wonder. Few people ever climbed so high, and the unseen heights became the perfect home for immortal beings. Imagine cool mountain air, the scent of stone warmed by yesterday's sunlight, clouds drifting slowly across towering cliffs, silence broken only by the wind. In the imagination of ancient Greece, this was where the gods gathered. Among them sits Zeus, king of the gods. Unlike many later ideas of perfect divine beings, the Olympian gods reflected human qualities as much as supernatural ones. They admired courage, but sometimes acted unpredictably. They rewarded kindness, but could also become offended by pride or disrespect. This made the ancient Greek world feel deeply personal. Every storm might carry meaning. Every fortunate escape might suggest unseen help. Every unexpected hardship might inspire careful reflection. On this quiet morning, Zeus considers the fate of those who survived the Trojan War. Many kings have already reached home. Some returned safely. Others met unhappy endings, despite surviving 10 years of battle. Ancient audiences already knew many of these stories. One king returned only to be murdered inside his own home. Another wandered before finally reclaiming his kingdom. Each homecoming became its own tale. Yet one name remains absent: Odysseus. Athena notices the silence surrounding him. Among all the Olympian gods, Athena has long admired the king of Ithaca. Her respect is easy to understand. Athena is associated with wisdom, thoughtful planning, skilled craftsmanship, and careful judgment. Odysseus reflects many of those same qualities. He does not always rush toward danger. He studies problems before acting. He values cleverness as highly as strength. Imagine Athena watching the mortal world below. She sees cities rising with the morning light. She watches merchants opening market stalls. Children chase one another through narrow streets. Sailors prepare ropes before setting out upon calm water. And far away on a lonely island, she sees one exhausted man looking toward the sea. Odysseus. He is alive, but he is trapped. For years he has remained unable to continue his voyage. Not because he has forgotten home, not because he has chosen comfort, but because another immortal being refuses to let him leave. That island is called ODYSSEY. Unlike many places described in the Odyssey, historians cannot identify its exact location. It belongs more to the landscape of myth than geography. Imagine an island untouched by crowds. Tall trees sway gently in the breeze. Freshwater springs flow through green meadows. Birdsong fills the quiet forests. Wildflowers bloom between smooth rocks. Everything appears peaceful, yet beauty alone does not create freedom. Odysseus has lived here under the care of the nymph Calypso. In Greek mythology, nymphs are divine spirits connected with nature. Some belong to rivers, others to forests, some to mountains or springs. Calypso lives apart from both gods and ordinary humans. Her home is beautiful beyond measure. Ancient descriptions speak of fragrant cedar trees, climbing vines heavy with grapes, and birds singing among leafy branches. Imagine walking through such a place. The air smells of pine and wild herbs. Fresh water sparkles beside smooth stones. Soft moss cushions each step beneath ancient trees. Nothing appears threatening. Everything feels peaceful. And yet for Odysseus, this island has become another prison. Calypso loves him. She wishes him to remain forever. She even offers something no ordinary human could easily refuse: immortality. Think quietly about that offer. To never grow old, to never fear illness, to never watch time slowly reshape your face. Many stories treat immortality as the greatest possible gift. The Odyssey asks a gentler question. What value does endless life hold if it separates you forever from everyone you love? Odysseus does not hesitate. Again and again he longs for Ithaca instead. His island is smaller. Its hills are rough. Its palace is modest beside legendary kingdoms. But it is home. That longing becomes one of the quiet heartbeats of the Odyssey. Imagine Odysseus sitting alone near the shore. The sea stretches endlessly before him. Each wave reminds him of distance. Some mornings he watches ships that never approach. Other days the horizon remains completely empty. Years pass this way. Changing seasons mark time more faithfully than calendars. Spring flowers bloom. Summer sunlight warms the rocks. Autumn winds scatter leaves. Winter rain falls across the island. Still he waits. Ancient poets describe him often sitting beside the sea, weeping quietly. Not because he lacks courage, not because he has surrendered hope, but because even the strongest heart grows heavy after years of separation. It is a deeply human moment. Heroes are often imagined as fearless. The Odyssey allows its greatest hero to grieve. Athena believes enough time has passed. She approaches Zeus with respectful determination. She reminds him of Odysseus's loyalty. She recalls his intelligence during the Trojan War. She points out that every other surviving Greek leader has already received attention from the gods. Why should Odysseus remain forgotten? Zeus listens carefully. His answer reveals something important. Odysseus has not been forgotten. Another god still opposes him, Poseidon. To understand Poseidon's anger, we must look ahead briefly to one of the adventures Odysseus has already experienced. During his long voyage, Odysseus encountered the Cyclops Polyphemus. The Cyclops was not merely a giant. He was also one of Poseidon's sons. When Odysseus escaped from the Cyclops by blinding him, he unknowingly earned the lasting anger of the sea god himself. For Poseidon, this was not simply an insult. It became a personal wound. Imagine the sea itself reflecting divine emotion. Calm waters becoming rough. Gentle winds changing direction. Storm clouds gathering without warning. Every voyage now becomes more dangerous because an immortal ruler refuses forgiveness. Still, Zeus recognizes that endless punishment cannot continue forever. Poseidon is absent from Olympus at this moment, traveling among distant peoples. According to the ancient tale, the opportunity has arrived. Zeus makes two important decisions. The first concerns Odysseus, the second concerns Ithaca. He sends the messenger god Hermes to Ogygia. Hermes will carry divine instructions to Calypso. Odysseus must finally be allowed to leave. Meanwhile, Athena receives another task. She will travel to Ithaca, not openly as a shining goddess. the Olympians rarely reveal themselves so directly. Instead, Athena often chooses disguises. She understands that wisdom sometimes works quietly. Imagine sunlight spreading across the sea as Athena descends towards the human world. She appears not with thunder or dazzling light, but in the form of a trusted traveler. This disguise allows conversations to unfold naturally. It also reminds listeners that kindness towards strangers held great importance in ancient Greece. Hospitality was more than politeness, it was a sacred duty. A traveler arriving at one's door should first receive food, drink, and rest before being questioned. The Greeks called this custom xenia. Imagine arriving after weeks at sea. Your clothes smell of salt. Dust covers your sandals. You have crossed mountains and dangerous waters. A family welcomes you inside. Water is offered for washing. Fresh bread appears. Wine is poured. Only after your hunger is satisfied does your host gently ask your name. Such generosity strengthened friendships between distant communities. The Odyssey returns to this tradition again and again. Good hosts earn admiration. Bad hosts reveal poor character. Athena arrives at Odysseus's palace while disguised as Mentis, an old family friend. She immediately observes the troubling situation inside. The palace no longer feels like the orderly home of a respected king. Instead, noisy suitors fill the great hall. Imagine entering that room. Wooden tables overflow with food. Empty wine cups lie scattered. Servants hurry endlessly from kitchen to hall. Laughter echoes loudly against stone walls. Yet beneath the cheerful sounds lies disrespect. These men have stayed far beyond ordinary hospitality. They consume livestock belonging to Odysseus. They waste precious supplies. They treat another man's home as though it already belongs to them. Telemachus notices the stranger almost immediately. Unlike many of the suitors, he still remembers the customs of hospitality. He rises from his seat. He welcomes the visitor warmly. He offers food before asking questions. In this quiet gesture, we see something encouraging. Although his father has been absent for many years, Telemachus has inherited important values. Imagine the young prince. He is no longer the infant Odysseus left behind. He stands on the uncertain edge between youth and adulthood. His shoulders have grown stronger, his voice deeper. Yet confidence does not always come easily. For years he has lived beneath the shadow of a legendary father. Everyone praises Odysseus. Everyone remembers his intelligence. Everyone compares the son with the absent king. Such comparisons can become heavy burdens. Athena studies him carefully. She recognizes both uncertainty and quiet potential. During their conversation, she gently encourages him. Do not remain passive forever. Seek news of your father. Call an assembly. Speak before the people. Begin acting like the prince you already are. These suggestions may seem simple, yet they change everything. Until now, Telemachus has mostly endured events happening around him. Athena encourages him to shape events instead. Growth often begins with one conversation. Imagine hearing encouraging words at precisely the moment you most need them. Nothing around you changes immediately,
The palace remains crowded, the suitors remain disrespectful. Your father is still missing.
Yet inside your own thoughts, something shifts. Hope quietly awakens. That is exactly what happens to Telemachus. Athena eventually departs as quietly as she arrived.
Ancient poets describe moments when her divine nature becomes briefly visible before she disappears. Telemachus understands that this visitor was no ordinary traveler. The realization leaves him thoughtful. Outside evening slowly approaches once more. The palace grows quieter. Servants clear the tables. Oil lamps begin filling the great hall with warm golden light. Penelope hears a traveling singer performing songs about the difficult returns from Troy. His music reminds her painfully of Odysseus. She asks that another song be chosen. Telemachus surprises everyone. With respectful firmness, he tells his mother that singers should remain free to perform the stories they know. Then he gently asks her to return to her own chambers while he concerns himself with affairs of the household. Modern listeners sometimes find this moment surprising. Yet within its historical setting, it marks an important transition.
Telemachus is beginning to accept adult responsibility. He is discovering his own voice. Penelope quietly withdraws. Perhaps she notices that her son has changed in only a single day. The young child she once protected has begun stepping into adulthood.
Outside, darkness settles across Ithaca. The sea reflects the first stars. Far away on ODYSSEY, Odysseus still gazes toward the distant horizon, unaware that the gods have finally acted on his behalf. Hermes has not yet arrived. Calypso knows nothing of Zeus's decision, but change has already begun. Sometimes the greatest turning points begin silently. No thunder announces them. No armies march. No battles are fought. Only a few conversations, a few quiet decisions, a few hopeful thoughts, carried gently across land and sea. As the night deepens once more, the waves continue their endless rhythm against the shore. The same moon shines over Ithaca. The same moon shines over ODYSSEY. Father and son look beneath the same sky. Though hundreds of miles apart, neither knows how close their separate journeys are to becoming one. And as the gentle wind carries the scent of the sea into another peaceful night, the next chapter of this remarkable voyage slowly begins. Imagine that the first light of dawn returns once again to the island of Ithaca. The darkness slowly gives way to soft shades of blue, and a cool mist lingers over the hills. Olive trees stand quietly beneath the morning sky, their silver-green leaves catching the earliest sunlight. Somewhere nearby, a rooster calls from a small farmstead. Sheep begin to stir inside their stone enclosures, and fishermen quietly untie their boats from wooden posts along the shore. Another peaceful day begins. Yet for Telemachus, this morning feels different from everyone that came before. For years he has watched life move around him while waiting for answers that never came. Every traveler arriving in Ithaca carried stories from distant lands, but none could tell him where his father was. Every passing season seemed only to strengthen the belief that Odysseus would never return.
Now, after Athena's unexpected visit, something has changed. Not the island, not the palace, not the sea itself. The change has happened quietly within him. For the first time, he believes that searching may be better than waiting. Picture yourself walking beside him through the palace courtyard before sunrise. The stone beneath your feet is still cool from the night. Servants quietly begin preparing the morning meal. A few birds flutter between the roof beams, while smoke rises gently from the kitchen hearth. Most of the palace is still asleep. The noisy suitors who filled the great hall with laughter and endless feasting only hours earlier remain wrapped in comfortable blankets, unaware that events are beginning to move beyond their control. Telemachus walks alone. He thinks carefully about everything Athena has said. The goddess did not promise success. She did not promise that Odysseus still lived. Instead, she encouraged action. Ancient Greek stories often admire people who choose thoughtful action over helpless waiting. Courage is not always found on a battlefield. Sometimes it begins with a single decision made quietly before sunrise. As the morning slowly arrives, Telemachus prepares for another important step. He calls together an assembly of the people of Ithaca. To modern readers, this may sound ordinary, but within the story, it is remarkable. The island has not held such a gathering since Odysseus departed for Troy 20 years earlier. Imagine the people making their way toward the meeting place. Old fishermen lean upon smooth wooden staffs, polished by decades of use. Farmers leave their fields for a few hours. Shepherds descend from the hills. Craftsmen pause their work. Young men curious about the unusual gathering whisper quietly among themselves. Everyone wonders the same thing. Why has the prince summoned the people? Many remember carrying Telemachus as a small child. Now they see him standing before them as a young man. He is not yet as experienced as his father. He has never fought in a famous war. He has never ruled a kingdom. Even so, today he must speak. Imagine the silence that settles as he rises. A gentle breeze moves across the open gathering. The sea can be heard faintly in the distance. For a brief moment, no one says a word. Telemachus begins calmly. He speaks of his father's long absence. He speaks of the burden carried by his household. Most importantly, he speaks about the suitors. These noblemen have remained inside Odysseus's palace for far too long. Instead of respectfully asking Penelope for marriage according to custom, they consume another man's wealth day after day. They slaughter livestock. They empty wine jars. They place increasing pressure upon the queen while offering little respect in return. His words are thoughtful rather than angry. This is important. Ancient audiences admired self-control. A ruler who acted only from emotion often caused disaster. A ruler who spoke carefully earned greater respect. Yet speaking wisely does not always persuade others. The suitors quickly defend themselves. Among them stands Antinous, one of the most influential and arrogant men seeking Penelope's hand. he shifts the blame toward Penelope herself. He reminds everyone about the weaving trick she has used for years.
Each day she wove the burial cloth. Each night she secretly unraveled it. Only recently, he explains, had one of her servants revealed the truth. The deception could no longer continue. Imagine hearing this accusation spread through the assembly.
Some people exchange uncertain glances. Others quietly admire Penelope's determination. Her actions had not been meant to insult anyone. They had simply bought precious time, time in which hope could survive, time in which Odysseus might still return. The debate continues. Telemachus asks only for fairness. If Penelope truly wishes to remarry, then let her family arrange matters according to proper custom. But the palace should no longer be consumed by men who behave as permanent guests without invitation. His request is reasonable. Even so, the suitors refuse to leave. Their confidence comes partly from numbers. Together they are powerful. Separately they might hesitate. Ancient politics often depended upon personal alliances more than formal laws. The palace has become the center of competing ambitions. While the discussion unfolds, something unexpected happens. Two great eagles appear high above the gathering. They circle one another before sweeping low across the crowd. Ancient Greeks paid careful attention to unusual events in nature. Birds especially were often interpreted as signs from the gods. A respected elder named Halitherses watches closely. He has long studied such omens. After observing the eagles, he offers a quiet warning. He believes the birds signal that Odysseus is alive. More than that,
he believes the king will soon return. The suitors should leave while they still have the chance. Imagine the crowd listening. Some feel hope, others feel unease. The suitors simply laugh. Their confidence has become so great that they no longer fear either prophecy or rumor. Sometimes pride grows slowly. It begins with small successes. It becomes stronger when no consequences appear. Eventually, pride convinces people that they cannot possibly fail. The Odyssey repeatedly reminds us how dangerous such thinking can become. The assembly ends without solving the immediate problem. The suitors remain. The palace remains occupied. Yet something meaningful has happened. Telemachus has spoken before his people. He has declared his position openly. He is no longer simply waiting. He is acting. Growth often happens this way. The world may not change overnight, but the person facing it does. As afternoon sunlight warms the hills of Ithaca, Athena quietly returns. Once again she chooses a disguise. This time she appears as Mentor, an old and trusted friend of Odysseus. The name became so closely associated with wise guidance that many centuries later the English word mentor would come to describe a trusted teacher or advisor. It is a remarkable example of how deeply the Odyssey has influenced language itself. Athena encourages Telemachus to continue. The search for Odysseus must begin immediately. News may yet be found among those who fought beside him. The young prince decides to sail first to Pylos. There lives King Nestor, one of the oldest and wisest Greek leaders to survive the Trojan War.
If anyone remembers the final days after Troy's fall, perhaps Nestor does. Imagine preparations, beginning quietly as evening approaches. The harbor grows peaceful. The sea reflects the golden light of sunset. A small but sturdy ship waits beside the shore. Its wooden hull bears the marks of many earlier voyages. Sailors inspect ropes carefully. Fresh water is stored inside clay jars. Bread, dried fish, olives, and wine are packed for the journey ahead. Unlike mighty fleets that once sailed toward Troy, this expedition is modest. Its purpose is not war, it is discovery. Athena herself helps arrange everything. The goddess inspires loyal followers to assist Telemachus without drawing attention to her divine presence. One by one, trusted companions quietly gather. No loud announcement is made. No celebration takes place. Some journeys begin with great fanfare. Others begin almost unnoticed. Night falls across Ithaca. The palace grows noisy once more as the suitors feast. Wine flows freely. Music echoes through the hall. None of them realizes that the young prince they mock is preparing to leave before dawn. Imagine Penelope in her private chambers. She knows nothing of the voyage. Her thoughts remain fixed upon the endless uncertainty surrounding Odysseus. She has spent 20 years balancing hope against disappointment. Some mornings she believes he still lives. Other mornings, even hope feels distant. The Odyssey never portrays Penelope as someone untouched by sorrow. Instead, her strength lies in enduring sorrow without allowing it to destroy her judgment. Outside, stars fill the sky. The familiar constellations shine above the sea, exactly as they did for Bronze Age sailors thousands of years ago. Long before compasses became common, navigators studied the heavens. The rising and setting of certain stars helped guide ships across open water. Imagine standing on the deck beside Telemachus before sunrise. The air feels cool. The smell of salt fills every breath. Gentle waves rock the ship almost imperceptibly. Some sailors whisper quiet prayers for safe passage. Others tighten ropes one final time. There is excitement, certainly, but also uncertainty. Telemachus has never commanded such a voyage before. He carries no guarantee that anyone possesses the answers he seeks. Still, remaining at home would answer nothing. As the eastern sky slowly brightens, the sails rise. A fresh morning wind fills the woven cloth. The ship begins moving steadily away from Ithaca. At first, the shoreline remains clear. Stone houses, olive groves, the familiar palace standing above the harbor. Gradually, these become smaller. The island itself slowly blends into the distant horizon. For Telemachus, this is more than a physical journey. It is the beginning of adulthood. His father once crossed these same waters as an experienced king. Now the son follows, not with an army, but with questions. Ancient listeners would have recognized the importance of this moment. Many young nobles traveled to visit older rulers, learning diplomacy, hospitality, and leadership along the way. Experience was gathered gradually through observation and conversation. Books could preserve knowledge, but wisdom often passed from person to person. Imagine the gentle rhythm aboard the ship. Wood creaks softly beneath your feet. The sail flutters whenever the wind changes slightly. Seabirds occasionally circle overhead before disappearing inland. The sea stretches endlessly in every direction. Hours pass peacefully. Far away on the hidden island of ODYSSEY, another journey is also beginning to take shape. Hermes, the swift messenger of Zeus, has received his instructions. Soon he will cross the world to deliver the command that Calypso must release her long-held guest. Odysseus does not yet know that freedom is approaching. Telemachus does not yet know how close he has come to discovering traces of his father's fate. Father and son travel separate paths. One seeks home, the other seeks hope. The sea lies between them, patient and silent. Above them both, the same gentle sky slowly changes from morning blue toward the warm colors of afternoon. The wind continues to guide the little ship southward across calm waters. Ahead waits the sandy coast of Pylos. There, among ancient memories of the Trojan War, Telemachus will meet one of Greece's oldest surviving kings. And perhaps at last he will hear the first true news of the father he has spent a lifetime searching for. The voyage continues gently across the open sea. The waves rise and fall beneath the ship with the same quiet rhythm that has carried sailors for thousands of years. And our own peaceful journey through the Odyssey continues with them. Imagine the sea growing calmer as the morning continues. The small ship carrying Telemachus glides steadily across the gentle waters. Sunlight dances across the surface in countless tiny reflections, each one lasting only a moment before another takes its place. A few seabirds drift overhead, occasionally dipping close to the waves before rising once more into the clear sky. The journey has already begun to change him. Only a short time ago he stood uncertain inside his father's crowded palace. Now, with each mile that separates him from Ithaca, he feels a little more prepared to face the unknown. Sometimes courage grows quietly, not through one great achievement, but through many small decisions made one after another. Picture yourself standing beside him near the bow of the ship. The breeze carries the scent of salt and distant land. Sailors move calmly about their work, adjusting ropes with practiced hands. No one speaks loudly. Those who have spent years at sea understand that calm weather is something to appreciate rather than disturb. Ancient Greek ships depended almost entirely upon nature. Unlike later sailing vessels, most Bronze Age and early Iron Age ships were relatively small. They traveled close to coastlines whenever possible, stopping frequently to find fresh water and safe places to rest. Open sea crossings certainly happened, but experienced captains respected changing weather and avoided unnecessary risks. Every successful voyage required patience. Hours pass. Gradually, the coastline of Messenia appears ahead. Low hills rise gently above the shore. Beyond them stretch fertile fields that have supported farming communities for thousands of years. Rivers flowing from the mountains leave rich soil behind, making this region one of the more productive parts of southern Greece. Here lies Pylos, Unlike Ithaca's rugged landscape, Pylos offers wider plains and easier farmland. Grain grows well here, olive groves spread across gentle hillsides, while herds of cattle graze peacefully beneath the warm Mediterranean sun. Imagine approaching the harbor. Smoke rises into the clear sky from many cooking fires. Voices drift across the water. The scent of roasting meat reaches the ship even before it reaches land. Something important is taking place. As Telemachus steps ashore, he finds not a busy marketplace or ordinary gathering, but a great religious festival. Hundreds of people have assembled along the coast. Families stand together beneath the open sky. Children remain close to their parents. Elders sit quietly, watching preparations that have been performed for generations. Before them stand rows of dark-colored cattle. These animals have been chosen as offerings to Poseidon, the god of the sea. To modern readers, such ceremonies may seem distant. Yet for the people of ancient Greece, they expressed gratitude, respect, and hope. Life depended heavily upon forces beyond human control. Good harvests, safe voyages, healthy livestock, gentle weather, successful fishing. None could be guaranteed. Religious ceremonies became moments when communities acknowledged both their dependence upon nature and their belief that divine powers remained closely involved in everyday life. Imagine the quiet solemnity of the occasion. Fresh sea air mixes with the aroma of burning wood. Priests speak familiar prayers. The crowd listens respectfully. Everything moves according to traditions learned from parents and grandparents long before. The festival reminds us that the Odyssey is not simply about extraordinary adventures. It also preserves glimpses of ordinary customs practiced by ancient communities. Telemachus hesitates. He has entered a gathering of strangers. Although he is a prince, he is still young. Approaching an elderly king before such an important ceremony feels intimidating. Athena, still traveling beside him in the familiar disguise of mentor, quietly notices his uncertainty. She offers gentle encouragement. There is nothing shameful about speaking with wisdom and respect. Older people appreciate honest questions. Confidence does not require loud words. It requires sincerity. Her advice remains timeless. Together they approach King Nestor. Imagine meeting him for the first time. He is now an old man. His hair has turned white after many years beneath the sun. His face carries deep lines shaped by time, weather, responsibility, and long experience. His movements are slower than they once were, yet his eyes remain bright. They belong to someone who has witnessed great events and remembers them clearly. Among all the Greek leaders who fought at Troy, Nestor became famous less for physical strength than for thoughtful counsel. Even younger kings listened carefully when he spoke. Age had earned him authority. Wisdom had earned him some respect. As soon as Telemachus arrives, Nestor demonstrates one of the most important customs in the Odyssey. Hospitality comes before questions. Food is served. Wine is poured. Guests are welcomed before anyone asks their names.
Imagine sitting beneath the shade of a simple wooden shelter overlooking the sea. Fresh bread rests upon the table.
Roasted meat is shared generously. Clay cups filled with diluted wine pass from hand to hand. Only after everyone has eaten comfortably does Nestor begin asking about his visitors. This order matters. A hungry traveler should first become a comfortable guest.
Only afterward should conversation begin. Hospitality was never treated as an inconvenience. It was a moral responsibility. Telemachus finally introduces himself. He explains that he is the son of Odysseus. For a brief moment, silence settles over those nearby. Nestor studies the young man's face carefully. Then he smiles with quiet recognition. Yes, he can see the resemblance, the shape of the eyes, the thoughtful manner of speaking, the careful choice of words. Memory begins returning. Imagine an elderly man gently opening a collection of treasured memories stored for decades. He remembers Odysseus as a young king before Troy. He remembers councils where clever strategies were discussed late into the night. He remembers difficult decisions that affected thousands of soldiers. The years seem briefly to disappear. Nestor begins speaking of the Trojan War, and his voice carries neither excitement nor bitterness. Instead, it carries reflection. He remembers the conflict as something both extraordinary and deeply tragic. The Greeks achieved victory, but victory demanded terrible sacrifices. Many brave men never returned home. Families across Greece waited for fathers, sons, brothers, and husbands who would never again cross their own doorways. The Odyssey often reminds listeners that even successful wars leave lasting sorrow behind. Imagine evening settling over the Greek camp outside Troy many years earlier. Cooking fires glow softly beneath the stars. Soldiers sit together after another exhausting day. Some sharpen weapons. Others quietly repair sandals or clothing. Many simply stare into the flames while thinking about home. They wonder whether olive trees still grow beside familiar houses, whether children have grown taller, whether aging parents remain alive. The longing for home existed long before the fighting finally ended. Nestor remembers all of this. He also remembers what happened after Troy fell. Here his story becomes more complicated. The Greek alliance that had held together for 10 difficult years slowly began to break apart. Leaders who once fought side by side disagreed about how and when to return home. Ancient epics rarely present victory as the simple ending of every problem. Sometimes the hardest choices come afterward. According to Nestor, disagreements arose between Agamemnon, the commander of the Greek forces, and Menelaus, the king whose wife Helen had originally been taken to Troy. Some wished to depart immediately. Others believed additional religious ceremonies should first honor the gods. These disagreements divided the fleet. Imagine hundreds of ships gathered along the shore. Instead of leaving together, they gradually separate. Different captains choose different courses. The great alliance dissolves into individual journeys. Each king must now rely upon his own judgment. Nestor explains that he sailed home without further delay. Fortunately, his voyage remained peaceful. The gods allowed him to reach Pylos safely,
not every leader shared that blessing. His thoughts soon turned toward Agamemnon. Imagine a king finally reaching home after 20 years. His palace stands exactly where memory left it. Familiar hills surround the land. Servants prepare joyful celebrations. Everything appears peaceful. Yet danger sometimes hides where people feel safest. According to Greek tradition, Agamemnon's wife, Clytemnestra, had formed an alliance with another nobleman named Aegisthus during the king's long absence. Together they planned his murder. Soon after Agamemnon returned, he was killed inside his own palace. Ancient audiences knew this story well. To them, it formed a powerful contrast with the hope surrounding Odysseus. One king returned only to die at home. Would another return safely? The question remained unanswered. Nestor also speaks of Orestes, Agamemnon's son. While still young, Orestes eventually returned and avenged his father's death by killing Aegisthus. Ancient Greek audiences viewed this as both justice and tragedy. Family loyalty held enormous importance, yet revenge almost always carried painful consequences. As Nestor finishes this story, he gently turns toward Telemachus. Without directly commanding him, he offers an example. Just as Orestes matured and defended his father's honor, perhaps Telemachus too will find strength during his own difficult circumstances. The comparison encourages rather than pressures. Growth takes many forms. Telemachus listens carefully. He realizes that many families suffered because of the Trojan War. His own sorrow is not unique. Across Greece, countless homes experienced years of waiting, uncertainty, or grief. History often reminds us that great events touch ordinary families in deeply personal ways. The afternoon slowly fades. Golden sunlight stretches across the fields surrounding Pylos. Birds begin returning toward their nests. The sea grows quieter. Nestor wishes his guests to remain overnight. Once again, hospitality shapes the story. Travel at night was uncommon and often unsafe. Guests should rest. Morning would provide fresh opportunities. Imagine the peaceful evening meal. The day's warmth slowly gives way to cooler air. Oil lamps flicker softly. Conversations become quieter. Children grow sleepy beside their parents. Somewhere in the distance, waves continue washing gently against the shore. The festival has ended. Ordinary life gradually resumes. Before sleeping, Nestor offers another piece of advice. If Telemachus truly wishes to learn more about Odysseus, another king may possess better answers. Menelaus has recently returned to Sparta after many years of wandering. His own journey home proved long and difficult. Perhaps he heard news of Odysseus that never reached Pylos. The suggestion gives Telemachus another destination. His search is not finished. It is only beginning. As darkness settles completely across the quiet coast, stars appear above the ancient Greek sky. The same constellations watched over Nestor during the Trojan War. The same stars now shine upon Telemachus as he rests before continuing his journey. Far away, beyond countless miles of sea, Hermes is drawing closer to the hidden island of Ogygia. Soon, another conversation will quietly change the course of Odysseus's life. One journey seeks answers. The other is about to regain freedom. Like two rivers flowing toward the same sea, father and son continue moving slowly toward one another, though neither yet realizes how closely their paths are beginning to align. The night grows still. The breeze carries the gentle scent of olive trees and distant salt water, and beneath the peaceful stars, the long road home continues, one quiet step at a time. Imagine the first light of morning spreading gently across two very different shores. In Pylos, the sea reflects the pale colors of dawn as Telemachus prepares to continue his search. Birds stir among the olive trees, and fishermen begin pushing their boats towards the calm water. Far away, beyond every familiar coastline, another island awakens. This island is unlike any place that ordinary sailors expect to find. Hidden far from the busy routes of merchants and fishermen, surrounded by an endless horizon of blue, lies the quiet home of Calypso. For many years, it has been both a sanctuary and a prison. Picture yourself standing beside a clear spring beneath towering cedar trees. Fresh water flows gently over smooth stones polished by centuries of quiet movement. Wild flowers bloom between patches of soft grass. Vines heavy with ripe grapes climb naturally through the branches overhead. Birds sing without fear, and the air carries the rich scent of pine, damp earth, and flowering herbs. Nothing here seems harsh. Nothing appears dangerous. The island feels untouched by the worries of kingdoms, wars, or politics. Yet beauty alone cannot satisfy every longing. Not far from the cave where Calypso lives, another familiar figure sits quietly upon a rocky shore. It is Odysseus. The sea stretches endlessly before him. Morning after morning, he comes to this same place. He watches the horizon. He listens to the slow rhythm of the waves. Sometimes the breeze carries only the scent of salt. Sometimes distant clouds drift across the sky. But no ship appears. No sail breaks the empty line between sea and heaven. Years have passed in this quiet routine. Imagine how deeply a person can come to know the sound of waves after hearing them every day for so long. The sea no longer feels like an invitation. It has become a reminder. Every wave whispers of home while keeping it forever beyond reach. Ancient poets describe Odysseus weeping here. The image surprises many readers who expect heroes always to appear fearless and unshaken. The Odyssey offers something gentler. It reminds us that longing is not weakness. Grief does not erase courage. A strong person may still miss home every single day. This honesty is one reason the story has remained meaningful across so many centuries. As the morning slowly arrives, another traveler approaches the island. Unlike ordinary visitors, this one does not cross the sea by ship. Hermes, the messenger of Zeus, moves swiftly across the world. In Greek art, Hermes is often shown carrying a herald's staff and wearing winged sandals, symbols of speed rather than literal descriptions of flight. His role among the Olympian gods is unique. He carries messages between divine and mortal worlds. He guides travelers, He protects merchants. He also escorts souls on their final journeys. Today, however, his purpose is simple. He carries the decision of Zeus. Imagine Hermes arriving quietly among the trees. The island remains peaceful. Bird song fills the air. Freshwater streams sparkle beneath the morning sun. Nothing announces the importance of this visit except the calm certainty with which the messenger walks toward Calypso's home. The ancient poem describes her dwelling with loving detail. Imagine a spacious cave naturally shaped by time. Inside, warm firelight glows softly. Fragrant cedar and juniper burn slowly upon the hearth, filling the air with a pleasant aroma. Skilled weaving rests upon a loom. Beautiful fabrics hang neatly nearby. Everything reflects careful craftsmanship rather than luxury for its own sake. Calypso herself is busy at her work. The Odyssey often presents weaving as an important part of daily life. It required patience, attention, and considerable skill. Clothing, blankets, sails, and many household items depended upon countless hours spent at the loom. Whether queen or servant, many women of the ancient world practiced this craft. Hermes enters respectfully. Even among the gods, courtesy matters. Calypso welcomes him according to the ancient customs of hospitality. Food is prepared. Drink is offered. Conversation begins only after the guest has been properly received. The familiar pattern appears once again. Hospitality belongs not only to humans, but also to immortals. After these courtesies, Hermes quietly delivers the message. Zeus has spoken. Odysseus must be allowed to leave. For a moment, Calypso says nothing. Imagine hearing words that quietly change everything. The peaceful life she has shared with Odysseus is coming to an end. Eventually she speaks. Her response is thoughtful, though touched by sadness. She observes that the gods often judge one another differently than they judge themselves. She suggests that goddesses who grow attached to mortal men are not always treated kindly by the other Olympians. Her words reveal something interesting about Greek mythology. The gods themselves do not always agree. They argue. They question. They sometimes believe decisions are unfair. The divine world reflects many of the same complexities found among human beings. Yet Calypso understands that Zeus's command cannot simply be ignored. Slowly she accepts what must happen. Imagine the quiet feeling that settles over the island. The birds continue singing. The streams continue flowing. The wind still moves gently through the trees. Nature itself remains unchanged. Only the future has shifted. Calypso walks toward the shore where Odysseus sits looking across the sea. He notices her approaching but does not yet know why. For years she has offered comfort. She has spoken kindly. She has even promised him immortality. None of those things could replace the life he left behind. Now she brings unexpected news. You may go home. Imagine hearing those words after believing they might never come. Hope does not always arrive with loud celebration. Sometimes it arrives quietly, almost too gently to believe. Odysseus hesitates. His first reaction is not joy, but caution. He has endured too many disappointments. He wonders whether this might be another test, perhaps another trick,
Perhaps another delay. His careful nature appears once again. He asks Calypso to swear that she truly means him no harm. Ancient audiences would have admired this response. Wisdom includes caution. Experience has taught Odysseus not to trust appearances too quickly. Calypso understands. She does not become angry. Instead, she reassures him sincerely. Her promise is genuine. She wishes him no evil. Although saddened by his departure, she will help him prepare for the voyage. This moment reveals an important truth about her character. Calypso is not portrayed as cruel. She has held Odysseus against his wishes. That is certainly true. Yet once the decision has been made, she chooses kindness rather than bitterness. Human emotions are rarely simple. Neither are those found in myth. Together they begin preparing for the journey. Imagine walking through the island's quiet forest beside Odysseus. Tall trees rise overhead. Sunlight filters gently through green branches. The scent of fresh-cut wood soon fills the air. Odysseus carefully selects strong trunks, suitable for building a sturdy raft. Although remembered as a king and warrior, he is also remarkably practical. Ancient rulers often possessed many useful skills. They understood ships, they hunted, they supervised construction. They knew how to survive when necessary. For 4 days, Odysseus works steadily. Imagine the sound of bronze tools striking wood. Branches fall softly onto moss-covered ground. Birds briefly scatter before returning to nearby trees. The work is calm but demanding. Each beam must fit securely. Each joint must hold against powerful waves. The Odyssey quietly reminds us that survival often depends as much upon craftsmanship as courage. Calypso helps generously. She provides tools. She offers cloth for sails. She prepares food and fresh water for the voyage. Imagine clay jars filled carefully from clear springs, bread wrapped for the journey, wine stored safely aboard, everything needed for many days at sea. One evening, as the work nears completion, the island grows especially peaceful. The sky turns shades of gold and rose before fading into deep blue. Stars appear one by one above the quiet ocean. Odysseus stands beside the finished raft. For the first time in many years, home no longer feels impossible. It remains distant. Dangerous waters still lie ahead. Poseidon still holds his anger. Yet movement has become possible once more. Hope often begins this way, not with certainty, simply with the chance to continue. Imagine the emotions filling Odysseus's thoughts that night. He remembers Ithaca. He remembers Penelope. He remembers Telemachus as a tiny child. He wonders what 20 years may have changed. Does his son still live? Has Penelope remained faithful? Does anyone still remember him? The questions have no answers yet. Only the sea can provide them. At sunrise on the 5th day, everything is ready. The raft rests upon gentle waves near the shore. The sail hangs quietly, waiting for the morning breeze. Calypso stands beside it. Their farewell is calm. There are no harsh words, only quiet acceptance. She has offered everything she could. Odysseus has chosen home. Some choices reveal what matters most. As the morning slowly arrives, a favorable wind begins to blow. Odysseus raises the sail. The raft moves steadily away from the island. Imagine looking back only once. The trees grow smaller. The cave disappears among the cliffs. Soon even the island itself becomes a faint outline upon the horizon. After so many years, ODYSSEY begins slipping quietly to memory. Ahead lies only open water. The journey home has truly begun. Far away, Telemachus also continues traveling towards Sparta in search of news. Neither father nor son knows how closely their separate paths are beginning to draw together. The same wind that fills Odysseus's sail moves gently across the wider sea. The same sun shines upon both travelers. One searches for answers. The other carries renewed hope. Their reunion remains hidden somewhere beyond the horizon. For now, the sea stretches peacefully before Odysseus. Its gentle waves rock the small raft with slow, steady rhythm. The morning grows warmer. The breeze remains kind. For 17 quiet days, the voyage will continue beneath changing skies, carrying one determined traveler ever closer to the home he has never stopped loving. And so with the endless sea unfolding before him, another chapter of the long homecoming begins. Imagine the sea stretching endlessly in every direction. There is no land upon the horizon now. Only water and sky meet in a distant line, so smooth that it is difficult to tell where one ends and the other begins. The morning breeze fills the small square sail, and the raft moves forward with quiet determination, rising and falling gently upon the long rolling waves. For the first time in many years, Odysseus is truly traveling home. The island of ODYSSEY has disappeared behind him. Ahead lies uncertainty. Yet uncertainty is different from captivity. Even an unknown journey can feel hopeful when it leads toward home. Picture yourself sitting quietly upon the raft beside him. The wooden beams creak softly as they move with the sea. Thick ropes, carefully tied by experienced hands, hold everything firmly together. Clay jars containing fresh water are secured beneath woven coverings, while food prepared by Calypso rests safely where the spray cannot easily reach it. Nothing about the vessel is luxurious. It has not been built for comfort. It has been built for survival. The Odyssey often reminds us that careful preparation matters. A well-made tool, a strong knot, a thoughtfully packed supply of food. Small acts of patience often become the difference between safety and disaster. As the morning slowly arrives each day, Odysseus follows the guidance of the heavens. Ancient sailors possessed remarkable knowledge of the sky. Long before magnetic compasses became common, experienced navigators learned to recognize familiar stars and constellations. During clear nights, they observed the Great Bear, known to the Greeks as the wagon, keeping it upon one side as they sailed. Imagine the night sky without modern lights. Thousands of stars shine with extraordinary clarity. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a pale river flowing across the darkness. The sea below reflects many of those same lights, gently broken apart by moving waves. Odysseus watches carefully. He does not rush. He adjusts the sail when necessary. He conserves his strength. Every sunrise brings him a little closer to Ithaca. The days pass peacefully. One, then another. Soon nearly 2 weeks have slipped quietly behind him. Morning follows evening. Evening follows afternoon. The rhythm of life becomes wonderfully simple. Watch the sky. Adjust the sail. Eat sparingly. Drink carefully. Rest whenever possible. Hope. Sometimes the greatest adventures contain long moments of peaceful silence. Not every page of the Odyssey is filled with danger. Its quieter passages allow both the hero and the listener time to breathe. Imagine gentle rain falling one afternoon. Not a storm, only a brief shower that cools the air before drifting away. The scent of fresh rain mixes with salt carried by the wind. Clouds soon part again, allowing warm sunlight to sparkle across the water. Odysseus has survived so much already that even these ordinary moments feel precious. He has known battle. He has known captivity. Now he simply experiences another peaceful day upon the sea. Meanwhile, far beyond his sight, another immortal has returned. Poseidon. The ruler of the sea has been visiting distant lands. Now his attention once again turns toward the waters that surround Greece. Imagine the god looking across the vast ocean. He notices a tiny raft moving steadily over the waves. Upon it stands the man he has never forgiven, Odysseus. For a moment the sea remains calm. Then Poseidon's anger begins to awaken. In Greek mythology, the sea is never merely water. It reflects the moods of its divine guardian. When Poseidon is peaceful, the waves remain gentle. When he is angry, nature itself seems to answer. The Odyssey uses this image not simply to describe weather, but to express how vulnerable human beings remain before the forces of the natural world. Imagine standing beside Odysseus as the first signs appear. The pleasant breeze weakens. The air grows strangely still. Far away dark clouds begin gathering along the horizon. At first they seem harmless, small, distant, easy to ignore. Experienced sailors know better. Weather at sea can change with remarkable speed. The smell of the air changes. The wind shifts direction. Birds disappear. The waves begin moving differently. Nature quietly announces what is coming. Odysseus notices immediately. Years of experience have taught him to read these signs. He secures everything aboard the raft once more. Food, water, tools. Every item is checked carefully. Preparation cannot stop the storm, but it may help him survive it. Soon the first strong gust arrives. The sail snaps sharply. The raft rocks more violently than before. Gray clouds spread rapidly overhead, hiding the warm afternoon sun. The sea loses its gentle blue color. Instead, it becomes dark, restless, and uncertain. Imagine the sound. Wind whistles through the ropes. Water crashes against the wooden beams. Thunder rolls somewhere beyond the clouds. The calm silence of previous days has vanished. Now every movement demands attention. Poseidon summons mighty winds from every direction. In the ancient imagination, 4 powerful winds seem to attack the little raft together. The sea rises into towering waves.
One lifts the raft high into the air, another drops it sharply into deep valleys between walls of water. There is no stable ground, only endless motion. Imagine trying to stand. Each step becomes uncertain. The deck beneath your feet refuses to remain level. Cold spray strikes your face again and again. Rain begins falling heavily. The horizon disappears completely behind curtains of water. For many listeners in the ancient world, storms like these were familiar. Even today, sailors understand how quickly the sea can become dangerous. The Odyssey transforms that universal experience into something deeply personal. Odysseus is no longer fighting soldiers. He is struggling against nature itself. His thoughts briefly become heavy. After surviving Troy, after escaping monsters, after enduring years upon Ogygia, could everything end here? Far from home, without seeing Penelope again, without ever meeting the grown son, he barely remembers it. These thoughts come naturally. The Odyssey never pretends that courage means the absence of fear. Real courage often exists alongside fear. Odysseus continues working despite his uncertainty. He fights not because victory is certain. He fights because hope still remains. A tremendous wave crashes across the raft. Imagine the sound of heavy wood breaking. Ropes strain. Beams twist beneath enormous pressure. Another wave follows almost immediately. This time the raft begins to come apart. The carefully built vessel that carried him safely for 17 days can no longer withstand Poseidon's fury. Odysseus is thrown into the sea. For a brief moment, everything disappears beneath dark water. Imagine the cold, the weight of soaked clothing, the powerful pull of moving currents, the roaring silence beneath the waves. Then he rises again, gasping for breath. Around him, pieces of the shattered raft drift helplessly. Even now, Odysseus refuses to surrender. He grasps one remaining section of timber. It offers little protection. Still, something is better than nothing. Ancient audiences admired this determination. Survival often depends upon continuing long after easier choices have disappeared. As the storm continues, another divine figure quietly observes. This is Ino, also called Leucothea in later tradition. According to Greek mythology, she was once mortal before becoming a sea goddess. Unlike Poseidon, she feels compassion for the exhausted traveler. Imagine her rising gently above the waves, not with frightening power, rather with calm reassurance. She speaks kindly. She tells Odysseus to let the broken raft drift away. Instead, he should trust the sea, remove his heavy clothing, and swim toward the distant shore. Before leaving, she offers him something remarkable. A magical veil. She instructs him to place it beneath his chest. As long as he wears it, she promises, he will not drown. When he finally reaches land, he must return it respectfully to the sea. Odysseus hesitates. His cautious nature appears once again. He has learned not to accept every unexpected gift immediately. Could this also be another trick? The sea still rages around him. The raft, though badly damaged, still floats. He decides to remain with it a little longer. This small decision reflects one of his greatest strengths. wisdom often means delaying judgment until circumstances become clearer.
Soon another enormous wave settles the question. The remaining raft shatters completely. Nothing useful remains. Only then does Odysseus follow Ino's advice. He removes his heavy outer clothing. He wraps the magical veil beneath his chest. Then he begins swimming. Imagine the effort required. Each wave pushes him away from his destination. Salt water fills his mouth. His arms grow heavier. His muscles ache from exhaustion. Still, he continues. Hour after hour. The storm slowly begins to weaken. Poseidon's anger gradually passes. The winds lose some of their violence. Clouds begin breaking apart overhead. Small patches of blue sky appear once more. Athena has quietly intervened. Although she cannot openly oppose every action of Poseidon, she calms the remaining winds enough to give Odysseus a chance. The Odyssey often portrays divine help this way. The gods rarely complete human tasks. Instead, they create opportunities. The person must still do the difficult work. As daylight fades, Odysseus finally sees land. At first it brings relief, then concern. Towering cliffs rise directly from the sea. Powerful waves crash against sharp rocks. Landing there would almost certainly prove fatal. Imagine hearing the roar of surf echoing against stone. The sea throws enormous waves upward before pulling them violently back again. There is no quiet beach, no sheltered harbor, only unforgiving cliffs. Odysseus faces another difficult choice: remain at sea and risk exhaustion, or approach the rocks and risk being dashed against them. Fortunately, careful observation once again saves him. Farther along the coastline, he notices something different. A river. Fresh water flows gently into the sea. The current there appears calmer. The banks seem lower. It offers hope. The ancient poet gives us one of the Odyssey's most beautiful moments here. Odysseus prays not to one of the Olympian gods, but to the river itself. For ancient Greeks, rivers possessed their own divine spirits. Fresh water gave life to fields, animals, and entire communities. Respecting rivers meant respecting nature. Imagine the river answering silently. Its current becomes gentler. The waves lose some of their force. Odysseus reaches the mouth of the river safely. At last, his feet touch solid ground. After many days upon the open sea, the earth beneath him feels almost unfamiliar. He collapses onto the shore. His body is bruised. His hands bleed from rough rocks. His breathing is slow and heavy. Yet he is alive. For a long time he simply lies quietly upon the pebbles while evening settles around him. The storm has ended. Only the gentle sound of flowing water remains. The air smells of wet earth instead of salt alone. Nearby trees move softly in the evening breeze. Before resting, Odysseus carefully removes Ino's magical veil. Just as he promised, he casts it back into the sea. A wave carries it gently away. It is a small act of gratitude. Promises matter. Even after great hardship, night approaches quickly. Odysseus now faces one final challenge. Where should he sleep? The open beach feels dangerous. Wild animals may wander nearby. The cold night air could weaken his already exhausted body.
He searches quietly until he finds a sheltered place beneath thick olive bushes growing close together. Imagine lying there beside him. Dry leaves form a natural blanket. The scent of earth and fresh greenery surrounds you. Above the branches, a few stars become visible through narrow openings. The storm is gone. Only peaceful silence remains. Athena gently sends deep sleep over him. For the first time since Poseidon's attack, his body can finally recover. He knows nothing yet about the land where he has arrived. He does not know its people. He does not know whether they will welcome a stranger or fear him. He knows only this: he has survived. Sometimes survival itself becomes the greatest victory. As the quiet night settles over the unknown island, the river continues its gentle journey toward the sea. The stars shine peacefully overhead. The exhausted traveler sleeps beneath ancient olive trees. And only a short distance away, destiny is quietly preparing another meeting. One that will bring Odysseus closer to home than he has been in 20 long years. Imagine the storm becoming nothing more than a memory. The fierce winds that filled the sky only hours before have disappeared beyond the horizon. The sea, though still restless, has begun to settle into its familiar rhythm. Small waves wash gently against the shore, smoothing the pebbles one after another, as though nature itself wishes to erase the signs of yesterday's struggle. Morning has not yet fully arrived. The eastern sky slowly brightens with soft shades of pale gold and gentle blue. A cool breeze carries the fresh scent of damp earth mixed with salt from the sea. Tiny drops of dew rest upon wild grasses growing beside the river where Odysseus now sleeps beneath thick olive bushes. Picture yourself standing nearby. His clothing is worn and torn by the sea. His hands still bear small cuts from rough rocks. His face, weathered by many years of travel, appears peaceful at last. For the first time in many days, he sleeps without fighting waves or watching the changing sky. The ancient poet lingers over this quiet moment. After great hardship comes necessary rest. The Odyssey understands that even the strongest traveler cannot continue forever without sleep. While Odysseus rests, another story quietly begins elsewhere on the island. The land where he has arrived belongs to the Phaeacians. Unlike many kingdoms visited throughout the Odyssey, the Phaeacians live in remarkable harmony with the sea. Ancient listeners imagine them as skilled sailors whose ships moved with unusual speed and confidence. They were respected for their seamanship, hospitality, and peaceful way of life. Their island is called Scheria. Historians have long wondered whether Scheria was inspired by a real place. Some later writers associated it with the island of Corfu, while others believed it belonged entirely to the world of myth. The Odyssey itself leaves the question beautifully open. Rather than insisting upon precise geography, it invites us to enter a place that feels both familiar and dreamlike. Imagine fertile valleys stretching inland from the coast. Fruit trees grow beside carefully tended gardens. Fresh streams flow toward the sea. The people build graceful ships from well-shaped timber, and their harbors remain busy without becoming crowded. Unlike kingdoms still recovering from war, Sharia seems peaceful. Life follows the steady rhythm of work, family, and the sea.
As the morning slowly arrives, Athena quietly continues her careful work. She has protected Odysseus through the storm. Now she prepares another meeting that will gently guide him towards safety. The goddess visits the dreams of a young woman named Nausicaa. Nausicaa is the daughter of King Alcinous and Queen Arete, rulers of the Phaeacians. Imagine her sleeping peacefully inside the royal palace. The room is simple yet comfortable. Soft woven blankets rest upon a carefully made bed. Nearby stands a finely crafted wooden chest containing garments prepared with great care. Outside her window, the first birds have already begun welcoming the coming day. Athena appears within her dream disguised as one of Nausicaa's close friends. Dreams often carried special meaning in the ancient world. Sometimes they reflected ordinary thoughts. Sometimes they were believed to carry messages from the gods. In this dream, the visitor gently reminds Nausicaa that she is approaching the age when marriage may soon become part of her future. Before such important moments, beautiful clothing should be washed and prepared. The suggestion is practical rather than mysterious. Soon the weather will be warm. The river offers clear running water. It is a perfect day for washing garments. When Nausicaa awakens, the dream remains fresh in her mind. Imagine opening your eyes after such a dream. Sunlight begins slipping gently through the room. The memory feels unusually vivid, not frightening, simply convincing. She rises and quietly dresses before seeking permission from her father. King Alcinous listens kindly. Nausicaa asks to borrow a wagon and mules so she and her attendants may carry the household clothing to the river. The king smiles warmly. Although he understands more than she openly says, he asks no unnecessary questions. Parents often recognize what their children leave unspoken. He gladly agrees. Soon preparations begin. Imagine the quiet activity inside the palace courtyard. Freshly baked bread is placed into baskets. Clay jars are filled with water and wine. Olive oil is packed for later use. Clean blankets are folded neatly. The sturdy wagon is brought forward while gentle mules wait patiently beside it. Nausicaa's companions gather happily. For them, this is not merely work. It is an opportunity to spend the day outdoors together. Laughter comes easily among friends. The wagon leaves the palace as the morning grows brighter. The wheels roll steadily along a familiar road leading toward the river. Birdsong fills the air. Wildflowers sway gently beside the path. The scent of flowering herbs drifts through the warm breeze. Picture yourself walking nearby. The journey is peaceful. No one hurries. The island itself seems untouched by fear. Eventually they reach the broad river where fresh water flows toward the sea. The place has long served the community. Smooth stones line the banks. Shallow pools allow clothing to be washed carefully. Sunlight reaches the open meadow beyond, making it an ideal place for drying woven fabrics. The women begin their work. They rinse each garment thoroughly.
They tread upon the cloth with practiced feet inside the shallow pools, loosening dust and salt gathered over many months of use. Water splashes gently. Voices drift pleasantly across the riverbank. Everything moves with the familiar rhythm of daily life. The Odyssey often pauses to observe such ordinary moments. Even within an epic filled with distant voyages and mythical creatures, simple household work remains important. After the washing is finished, the clean garments are spread across warm rocks to dry beneath the sun. The hardest work completed, everyone enjoys a simple meal together. Imagine fresh bread, ripe fruit, olives, and cool water shared beneath the open sky. No palace banquet, no elaborate feast, only the quiet satisfaction that follows honest work. As the afternoon approaches, the young women begin playing with a brightly colored ball. Laughter echoes across the meadow. The game carries them back and forth along the grassy shore. For a little while, responsibilities are forgotten. Even royal daughters deserve moments of carefree happiness. Then quite suddenly, the ball slips from one player's hands. It bounces toward deeper water before disappearing into the river. A surprised cry rises from the group. The sound echoes clearly through the quiet valley. Nearby, beneath the shelter of olive bushes, Odysseus awakens. For a brief moment, he does not know where he is. The storm, the waves, the river. Slowly, memory returns. He hears unfamiliar voices. Carefully, he rises. Imagine his thoughts. He has reached land safely, but whose land? Are these peaceful people or dangerous strangers? Throughout the Odyssey, every new shore brings uncertainty. Hospitality cannot be assumed. It must be discovered. Odysseus quietly parts the branches. Before him stands a group of young women. Most of them freeze with surprise. At the sight of an unknown man emerging from the bushes, several immediately run away. Their reaction is understandable. Odysseus looks nothing like a visiting nobleman. His clothing has been ruined. His hair hangs wet from the sea. His face shows the exhaustion of many difficult days. Only Nausicaa remains where she stands. Athena quietly strengthens her courage. Imagine the gentle calm settling over her heart. Fear gives way to compassion. She does not know who this stranger is, yet she chooses not to flee. This small decision changes everything. Odysseus now faces another difficult choice. How should he approach her? Ancient customs offered several possibilities. One could physically grasp the knees of a person while asking protection. Such a gesture expressed complete humility. Yet Odysseus quickly judges that doing so might frighten the young princess. Instead, he remains at a respectful distance. Once again, wisdom appears through careful observation. Imagine him standing quietly. The breeze moves softly through nearby trees. The afternoon sun warms the riverbank. He chooses his words with great care. He praises Nausicaa's dignity without excessive flattery. He compares her grace to a young palm tree he once admired beside the sanctuary of Apollo on the island of Delos. The comparison feels gentle rather than dramatic. Then he explains only what is necessary. He has suffered greatly. He has reached shore after many hardships. He asks only for clothing and directions to the nearest town. Nothing more, no demands, no complaints, simply a humble request. Nausicaa listens attentively. Her response immediately reveals the values of her people. She does not ask whether he possesses wealth. She does not ask his family name. She does not question whether helping him may bring reward. Instead, she remembers something her parents have taught her. Strangers deserve kindness. Any traveler may arrive carrying burdens invisible to others. Hospitality begins with compassion. Imagine her turning calmly toward the attendants who had fled. She gently calls them back. There is nothing to fear. Slowly they return. Their uncertainty fades as they realize the stranger behaves respectfully. Nausicaa instructs them to bring fresh clothing. She offers olive oil so that Odysseus may wash away the salt left by the sea. Notice how practical her kindness becomes. She understands that restoring someone's dignity often begins with meeting ordinary needs. Clean water, fresh clothing, time to recover. Odysseus accepts gratefully. Out of modesty, he bathes separately where the women cannot see him. The Odyssey quietly emphasizes his respect. Courtesy flows in both directions. Athena now performs another gentle act. After Odysseus has washed and dressed himself, the goddess restores some of the noble appearance hidden beneath years of hardship. His hair appears healthier. His posture grows straighter. His natural dignity becomes visible once again. This transformation is symbolic as much as physical. The weary castaway still exists, but beneath exhaustion remains the wise king of Ithaca. When Odysseus returns, Nausicaa notices the change. She does not suddenly fall deeply in love, as later stories sometimes imagine. Instead, she quietly admires the stranger's noble bearing and thoughtful manner. Her respect grows naturally. As afternoon begins slipping toward the evening, Nausicaa offers further guidance. She explains that the city lies not far away. However, she suggests they enter separately. People in small communities often notice newcomers quickly. If she arrives beside an unknown man, unnecessary rumors may begin. Her advice reflects practical wisdom rather than embarrassment. Reputation mattered greatly in ancient society. Odysseus immediately understands. He agrees without hesitation. He will follow after a respectful distance. Before leaving, Nausicaa gives one final piece of advice. When he reaches the palace, he should seek Queen Arete first. Although King Alcinous rules wisely, the queen commands deep respect among her people. Her judgment carries great influence. If Arete receives him kindly, his journey home will become much easier. Imagine the princess climbing once more into the waiting wagon. The clean garments have been folded neatly. The afternoon light grows softer. The mules begin pulling the wagon slowly back toward the city. Odysseus watches quietly until she disappears among the trees. He stands alone once more. Yet everything has changed. Only yesterday, he floated helplessly upon the storm. Now he possesses clothing, directions, hope. And perhaps for the first time since leaving Troy, he has found people whose kindness asks nothing in return. The river continues flowing peacefully toward the sea. The evening breeze carries the scent of fresh grass and distant orchards. Ahead waits the shining city of the Phaeacians, where one final great tale must be told before the road to Ithaca can finally begin. And with slow, steady steps, Odysseus starts walking toward the place where strangers are welcomed, stories are shared, and destiny quietly waits. The sun has risen and set many times since our journey first began. We have crossed quiet seas, stood beneath the walls of ancient Troy, waited with Penelope inside the halls of Ithaca, sailed beside Telemachus as he searched for news of his father, watched Hermes carry the will of Zeus across the world, survived Poseidon's storm, and walked beside Princess Nausicaa along the peaceful river where kindness quietly changed the course of one weary traveler's life. Now imagine the evening settling gently over the city of the Phaeacians. Warm light glows from windows overlooking the harbor. Ships rest quietly beside carefully built docks. Gardens filled with fruit trees and flowering plants surround the palace of King Alcinous and Queen Arete. The air carries the gentle scent of olive wood burning in distant hearths, while somewhere beyond the city walls, the sea continues its endless conversation with the shore. Odysseus follows the path Nausicaa described. Athena, still watching over him, quietly wraps him in a mist so that he may pass unnoticed until he reaches the palace. In the language of myth, this is another reminder that wisdom often works quietly rather than dramatically.
At last he enters the magnificent home of the Phaeacian rulers. The palace is described with wonder. Imagine polished stone floors reflecting the soft glow of bronze lamps. Strong pillars support high wooden ceilings, finely woven cloth hangs from the walls, and carefully crafted chairs stand ready for honored guests. Servants move calmly through the great hall carrying bread, wine, and fresh fruit. Yet Odysseus remembers Nausicaa's advice. He approaches Queen Arete first. According to ancient custom, he kneels before her, asking only for safe passage home. For a brief moment, the hall grows silent. Every eye turns towards the stranger. Who is this man? Where has he come from? Why does he carry such quiet dignity beneath worn clothing? King Alcinous quickly restores the proper customs of hospitality. The stranger is offered food before questions. A comfortable seat is prepared. Fresh bread is placed before him. Wine fills a waiting cup. Only after his hunger begins to fade does conversation slowly begin. Arete notices something unexpected. The clothing worn by the stranger looks remarkably familiar. She recognizes garments that had been prepared by her own household. Gently she asks where he received them. Odysseus answers honestly. He tells of the storm. He speaks of waking beside the river. He praises Nausicaa's kindness and wisdom without exaggeration. His words bring quiet satisfaction to the royal family. Alcinous admires both his daughter and the thoughtful stranger before him. The king immediately promises something precious. The Phaeacians will help him return home. Their ships are famous throughout the ancient world for their speed and skilled crews. The promise is offered freely. No payment is requested. No bargain is demanded. Hospitality reaches its highest form when generosity expects nothing in return. That evening, a great feast is prepared. Musicians perform. Among them is the blind bard Demodocus. His songs preserve memories of the Trojan War. Imagine his calm voice filling the great hall while every guest listens respectfully. He sings of famous battles. He sings of brave warriors. He sings of victories and losses remembered across Greece. As the song reaches the story of Troy itself, Odysseus quietly lowers his head. The memories remain painful. 20 years have passed. Yet the faces of friends who never returned still live within him. No one notices his tears except King Alcinous. The wise ruler understands that sorrow often hides behind silence. Rather than forcing questions immediately, he gently changes the subject. The following day, athletic contests are arranged in honor of the guest. Young Phaeacian men demonstrate their skill in running, wrestling, jumping, and throwing the discus. At first, Odysseus politely declines to compete. His body has only recently recovered from the storm. Some among the young athletes mistake his quietness for weakness. One proudly suggests that the stranger knows more about trade than physical strength. Odysseus smiles patiently. Then, without anger, he accepts the challenge. He lifts a heavy discus. With one smooth movement, he sends it soaring farther than anyone else has managed. The crowd falls silent before breaking into respectful admiration. His strength has never disappeared. It simply serves wisdom rather than pride. That evening, Demodocus sings once again. This time his song tells of the wooden horse and the final fall of Troy. The memories become too powerful. Odysseus cannot hide his emotions. Seeing this, King Alcinous gently speaks. My friend, tell us your name. Tell us your story. Tell us why these songs bring such sorrow. At last the moment has arrived. Odysseus reveals himself. I am Odysseus, son of Laertes. The hall grows wonderfully quiet. Many have heard his name, few ever expected to meet him. Now the greatest part of the Odyssey unfolds. Odysseus himself becomes the storyteller. In calm detail, he recounts the long years since leaving Troy. He tells of the Cicones, where victory quickly turned into unnecessary loss because some companions refused to leave in time. He remembers the lotus eaters, whose mysterious plant caused travelers to forget home itself. He speaks of the Cyclops Polyphemus. Imagine the great cave, the smell of sheep and goats, the enormous stone sealing the entrance, the terrible realization that strength alone could never save them. Odysseus explains how careful planning succeeded where force could not. He tells of calling himself nobody. He describes sharpening the wooden stake. He remembers escaping, hidden beneath the bellies of sheep. Yet he also admits his own mistake. As the ship sailed away, pride briefly overcame caution. He shouted his true name towards the blinded Cyclops. That single moment allowed Polyphemus
to pray to Poseidon. The sea god's anger began there. Odysseus does not hide his failures. That honesty gives his story unusual depth. He continues. He remembers Aeolus, keeper of the winds. The king had generously tied every dangerous wind inside a leather bag, leaving only the gentle breeze needed for Ithaca. Home already appeared upon the horizon. Then curiosity and suspicion overcame the crew. Believing treasure lay hidden inside the bag, they opened it while Odysseus slept. The released winds carried them all the way back across the sea. A lesson quietly emerges. Not every disaster comes from enemies. Sometimes it grows from distrust among friends. Next comes the land of the Laestrygonians. Their giant inhabitants destroy nearly every Greek ship. Only Odysseus' own vessel escapes. The journey grows lonelier. Companions who shared years of hardship disappear forever. Then comes Circe. At first she transforms many of his men into swine. With Hermes' unexpected help, Odysseus resists her magic. Eventually, hostility gives way to understanding. For a year they remain upon her island. When at last they prepare to leave, Circe offers guidance rather than danger. She tells Odysseus something no traveler wishes to hear. Before reaching home, he must visit the land of the dead. Imagine the quiet darkness surrounding that mysterious place. No battle occurs there, only conversations. Odysseus meets the spirit of the blind prophet Tiresias. He receives warnings about the future. He speaks with his mother who died during his long absence. He tries to embrace her. His arms pass only through shadow. It is one of the Odyssey's gentlest reminders that some losses cannot be undone. He also meets Achilles, once the greatest warrior among the Greeks. Achilles offers a surprising reflection. He says that he would rather live as the poorest servant among the living than rule over all the dead. The words quietly challenge old ideas about glory. Life itself remains precious. Odysseus returns safely to the world above. Then come the sirens. Rather than destroying them, he simply avoids their danger. His companions place wax in their ears. Odysseus, wishing to hear the famous song while remaining safe, orders himself tied securely to the mast. Knowledge becomes possible only because wisdom accepts limits. Next lies the narrow passage between Scylla and Charybdis. One monster waits upon the rocks. The other forms a deadly whirlpool. No perfect path exists. Circe had already explained this painful truth. Some losses cannot be avoided. Odysseus chooses the course that saves the greatest number. Even wise leaders sometimes face impossible decisions. Soon afterward, his weary companions reach the island of Helios. Despite repeated warnings, hunger finally overcomes judgment. While Odysseus sleeps, the sacred cattle are killed. The consequences arrive swiftly. Zeus sends another storm. Every companion dies. Only Odysseus survives. Floating upon broken timbers, he drifts back past Charybdis before finally reaching Ogygia, where Calypso rescues him. His tale is complete. Silence fills the palace. No one interrupts. No one doubts the hardship he has endured. King Alcinous quietly keeps his promise. The Phaeacians prepare one of their finest ships. Imagine the final evening before departure. The harbor rests peacefully beneath countless stars. Fresh supplies are carefully loaded aboard. Blankets are placed where the traveler will sleep. Strong oars wait beside experienced sailors. Everything has been prepared with quiet generosity. Odysseus boards the ship. Exhaustion finally overcomes him. As the vessel leaves Scheria, he falls into the deepest sleep of the entire journey. The sea remains calm. The voyage passes silently through the night. Before dawn, the ship reaches Ithaca. The sailors gently carry the sleeping king onto the familiar shore. Beside him, they place the gifts given by the Phaeacians. Without waking him, they quietly depart. When Odysseus opens his eyes, he does not recognize his own homeland. 20 years have changed both the island and the man returning to it. Athena soon appears. She reveals the truth. You are home. Imagine hearing those words after 2 decades. No celebration, no cheering crowds, only quiet certainty. Home. Athena immediately disguises Odysseus as an elderly beggar. Wisdom still demands patience. The palace remains occupied by dangerous suitors. Returning openly would invite disaster. First he visits the humble swineherd Eumaeus. The faithful servant welcomes the unknown beggar kindly, never realizing he is speaking to his own king. Hospitality once again reveals true character. Soon Telemachus returns from Sparta. Father and son meet at last. Imagine that moment. For years they have lived only in one another's thoughts. Now they stand face to face. At first Telemachus cannot believe what Athena reveals. Then disbelief slowly becomes joy. Together they embrace. There is little need for many words. Some reunions speak most clearly through silence. Father and son quietly prepare their plan. Odysseus enters the palace disguised as a beggar. Some servants remain loyal. Others have forgotten their king. The suitors mock the stranger. Only a few offer kindness. Even Argos, Odysseus' faithful old dog, recognizes him. Too weak to rise. The aged animal simply wags his tail before peacefully drawing his final breath. It is one of the Odyssey's most touching moments. Recognition requires no words. Penelope also speaks with the mysterious beggar. She still does not know his true identity, yet something about him feels strangely familiar. She announces one final contest. Whoever can string Odysseus's great bow and send an arrow cleanly through 12 axe heads shall become her husband. One after another the suitors try. None succeeds. The bow refuses every hand. Then the beggar quietly asks for a turn. Laughter fills the hall. Yet the laughter soon fades. With calm ease, Odysseus strings the bow exactly as he had countless times before. The arrow flies perfectly through every axe head. The disguise ends. Father and son stand together. The loyal servants join them. Justice finally arrives. The suitors, whose pride, greed, and abuse of hospitality have poisoned the household for years, meet their end. Peace slowly returns to Ithaca. One final reunion remains. Penelope does not immediately accept that the stranger before her is truly Odysseus. 20 years have taught her caution. She quietly orders that their marriage bed be moved. Odysseus immediately objects,
The bed cannot be moved. Long ago he built it himself around the living trunk of an olive tree rooted deep within the earth. Only the two of them know this secret. At last Penelope's doubts disappear. She knows. The man before her is truly her husband. Imagine their reunion. No grand speeches. No dramatic celebration. Only two people who have carried 20 years of hope, finally finding one another again. Morning slowly arrives over Ithaca. The palace grows peaceful. The sea beyond the island continues its endless rhythm just as it did when our story first began. The Odyssey closes, not with another adventure, but with reconciliation. Athena helps prevent further bloodshed. Old enemies lay down their anger. Families begin healing. The long wandering finally ends. What then has the Odyssey quietly taught us? It tells us that intelligence often accomplishes what strength cannot. That kindness shown to strangers reveals true character. That pride can destroy even the strongest person. That patience sometimes becomes its own form of courage. And above all, it reminds us that home is not simply a place upon a map. Home is memory. Home is love patiently preserved across time. Home is the quiet hope that survives storms, distance, and years of uncertainty. For nearly 3,000 years, generations have continued returning to this ancient tale, not because every monster can be explained, not because every miracle can be proven, but because beneath its myths lives something deeply human. A traveler longing for home, a family refusing to give up hope, a son searching for his father, a wife believing that faithfulness still matters, and a quiet belief that however long the journey may become, there is always meaning in continuing forward with wisdom, compassion, and patience. Now the waves grow softer. The evening breeze moves gently through the olive trees of Ithaca. The stars slowly brighten above the calm sea. Odysseus has finally come home. And with that peaceful homecoming, our own gentle journey through the complete Odyssey, Explained also comes quietly to its end.